time to give your opinion on the Bills and the NFL. Let's talk football live. Now, here's the 13 Wham Sports Team.
There he is, Lamar Jackson, the dynamic Ravens quarterback who is headed to Orchard Park this upcoming weekend. The MVP from a season ago. We know how dynamic he's been, explosive guy, averaging about 100 rushing yards per game. Welcome to Let's Talk Football Live, presented by Connors and Ferris, a playoff edition of Let's Talk Football Live. My Catalana, Dan Fetes. I am Jenna Cottrell.
It is a divisional playoff version, which has not happened. We did not do Let's Talk Football Live 25 years ago.
So surprised by that.
Yeah, when the Bills played Miami in the playoffs.
Was there internet?
Yeah. No. Well, I guess it might have been. I think only Outdoor
there was Netscape
then. Yeah.
Wow. We're throwing it all the way back. Yeah. We're feeling pretty good tonight as we get ready to preview this Bills-Ravens matchup. We talked so much this week about Lamar Jackson, but that's because he deserves all of that attention. Mike, a guy like Lamar, we know what he can do to opposing teams' defenses. And although he's not having an MVP caliber season this year, Mike I was saying that he thinks he's playing with even more confidence this season.
Yeah, I think there's something just clicked in Lamar. It's like they tried to make him into more and different. And the guy was the MVP last year, being Lamar. Now, he did throw the ball well last year, effectively, got the MVP, failed in the playoffs, right? So you want his game to come around. First of all, he's still a young guy, just like Josh Allen. They came out the same year. They are young players still developing. But Lamar is as dynamic of a player as there is in the league. And he is one of the few players in the entire NFL that on any play could go 80. I mean, he just can. Or go 50 or 60, or we saw it last week. So, yeah, he is a unique player. Michael Vick's the only comp I can come up with that's even close to what Lamar does.
Yeah, it's interesting because Josh and Lamar have a large amount of respect for one another. Both this week on their Zoom calls just spoke so highly of one another. Josh calling Lamar one of the greatest dudes you can be around. Says that he's admired his game, the way that he handled adversity in his first year. I wonder who that else sounds like. Yeah. As well as just everything that he does off the field for that community. We talked to Bruce Cunningham earlier this week, who also said all that Lamar does for the inner city in Baltimore. Yeah. So both great guys. Obviously, we know what Josh does with the Children's Hospital. Two great guys. And again, Mike, like you said, both are 23, 24 years old. You can't go wrong picking one of them to start a franchise with right now.
All right, well, let's get into
it. I was just going to say, I like the way Lamar handles himself. He's very different than Josh. I think Josh is a more polished guy in a sense. He's the speaker, the guys. Lamar is not that Josh isn't, but Lamar is genuine. I think that's just who he is, beloved by his teammates at Louisville. You can obviously tell he's loved by his Ravens teammates. And I think guys around the league, I think he's one of those guys around the league that other players are like, we love Lamar. They love watching him play.
We talked to the Bills players all this week about how they're going to face off against Lamar. And Dan, I want to get to you because you're stirring the pot a little bit. Why don't you explain?
Well, today, Matt Milano had his Zoom call with the media. One of the first things he was asked about was the Bills last year contained Lamar at the peak of his season, of his MVP caliber season. The Bills held him to 24 points. Yes, he did throw for 3 touchdown passes and beat the Bills, but it was a kind of average game for Lamar's standards. So he was being asked about it, if that gave them confidence heading into this week. And while other players like Micah Hyde said it did help, but you see Leslie Frazier and other guys say well, you got to throw last year out the window, all of those things. Matt Milano said, yes, it does. And we feel, quote, pretty confident that we will contain him.
You talk about being the sound tackler and all of those things. You learned firsthand last year, you can kind of have Lamar bottled up and he still is tough to take down. Does it come down to, I know I hear vision, you hear all those things. It comes down to making a play, right?
Got to make a play. That's it. That's what it really comes down to. Just you making a play when it counts.
That's easier said than done.
Yeah, it's a lot easier said than done.
And then, you talk about some guys saying, contain, and then it's don't want to be overly aggressive. Is there that fine line between being overly aggressive where Lamar can burn you, but not wanting to be sitting back and caught on your heels, right?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line. I think once you try to kind of put a pin in exactly what it is to defend it, that's when you really lose. You just got to go out there and make it happen, Don't think about it too much. Play fast, play free. Everybody's got to be running to the ball at all times because you never know when he's going to slip. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't sound like a guy that's being disrespectful because Ravens fans are tagging Lamar Jackson in my tweet being like, oh, this is the motivation you need, Lamar. He says that they're pretty confident that you're going to get this is bulletin board material. Jenna, does Matt Milano seem like a guy that is giving bulletin board material by saying what he said?
I will say that is the most animated I have ever seen Matt Milano. So you certainly got something out of him. But here's what I think it comes down to. When you listen to that, it sounds different than when you read it on a tweet. It really does. Sometimes tweets can be more impactful or the written word can be just more impactful. Because when I read it, I was like, oh, snap, like Matt Milano. Whoa, wasn't expecting that. And then when you have it in the context of what he's saying, it sounds different because you get his inflection of we're pretty confident instead of we're pretty confident. I think you also read it how you want and put into it what you want out of it. But I get how some people might have thought.
Well, Dan, on the plus side, Twitter has not flagged your tweet for something that is not accurate.
I can still tweet. Not everybody can tweet. That's another thing.
He tweeted and we actually are hearing Matt Milano. And like Jenna said, that is very true in the way he phrased it. But that sort of chuckle out of Milano, I kind of think that's a little bit of it's what you got to do. I take that also as a sign of respect. Like you're almost laughing, going, Dan, what happened to him last year?
Well, that's the thing is that I had another tweet that nobody cared about by saying that even when you think you have Lamar bottled up, you don't. And he says that you have to make a tackle. We've heard Micah Hyde talk about vision and gap integrity, and you got to do all of these things. It's and as I was asking him, Matt Milano did all of those things right last year and had his ankle snapped by Lamar Jackson. And that was the picture of the quote tweet of here's the image below. When I brought that up, I said, firsthand what it's like to feel like you have Lamar bottled up and then you don't. And that was when he kind of went yeah, I know what that's like. You got to make a play. I don't think in any way he was not saying that, I can't wait to play Lamar because I don't think anybody wants to play Lamar. Yeah. I think it was we got to make a play. And the way the defense is, and other people were saying too, what do you want him to say, Jenna? Got no shot. We got no shot at tackling him.
That is what I was going to bring up. It's you obviously want the players to be confident in what they're talking about and feel confident in their ability and their game plan and getting ready for this game. But it is interesting because I think I kind of do get why people might have read into it a little bit more without having the actual. Okay, do you expect
Jenna, have you ever had a tweet?
What do you expect? It is
Jenna, have you ever had a tweet get blown out of proportion when it
Yeah, exactly. Speaking from experience, I know how that goes.
But here's the difference. In Dan's case, both players he's talking about are going to be in the league for a long time. Yeah. The other guy never heard from again.
Honestly, Booger McFarland was the one that buried Kelvin Benjamin, saying he was a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
No, he put the dirt on the grave. You put him 6 feet under. He just gave the last shovel of dirt on there.
All right, well, let's get back into this game because something that I do think has been concerning Bills fans is the weather on Saturday. Now, there's supposed to be a little bit of snow showers coming into this game Saturday night, obviously kickoff at 8:15. Dan, okay, wait, Mike, what do you?
Well, I was going to say this again is where I go back to whoever had the great idea 100 years ago to build the stadium in Orchard Park. It's in the snow belt. If there's going to be lake effect, it just blows through Orchard Park. There's other parts of Buffalo sometimes that don't get it, meaning like we may not get anything, or Buffalo may not get anything, but Orchard Park will get 10 inches of snow on Saturday. That's not what they're predicting, but that's part of the issue in that stadium. They're not really predicting it, but we could get it.
Well, I think that's what hinders the Bills more, though, is that if it is snowing pretty hard, you're going to want to run the ball. And obviously the Ravens have the more efficient running game.
Yeah, more efficient running game. But again, we're not expecting this to be a big weather deal.
Even
Look,
now, he can't
I
go
just
to
think
the
it's
running
the
game.
anxiety. It's the anxiety. I think Bills fans get nervous because we have seen – I'm not saying it's going to be like that Indy Snow Globe game from a couple years ago. And we talked about that earlier this week.
Yes.
But I understand the anxiety that Bills fans are having because you've seen how well Josh Allen and this offense can play, and you don't want an external factor like the weather impacting that.
Sure. And some of the comments on the Facebook page, as well as on the YouTube, as well as on Mike Catalana's Twitter page, make sure to comment. Sinclair saying that Lamar Jackson says he's nervous about the snow. I don't know if he's nervous. He said he's never played in it. He said he's seen snow.
Let's listen to him.
How much experience do you have playing in the snow and never done it?
Zero experience. I never got to play in the snow. Except my first time seeing snow in Louisville, but we had a snowball fight, so that's totally different from playing in it. But yeah, that definitely would be my first time playing football in the snow Saturday. If it does, hopefully it don't.
He does not want the snow.
He really doesn't, man.
But hey, there's a Bills
snowball fight,
and there's a Bills player that doesn't want snow either. Stephon Diggs was asked if he's ever played in the snow, which I was surprised because I went back and looked. He had played in some games in Green Bay in December when he was in Minnesota. He said he has never played in the snow. He came flat out and said it. Yeah, he may have been joking and smiling behind his mask, but he did say, "I'm not looking forward to it. But I got to do my job. I got to get snow boots to run my routes."
Well, and he played in Chicago and Green Bay. I mean, I know Minnesota's in the dome, but you would have thought that he would have at some point. But we've talked about it before. What did Micah Hyde say about the snow and the cold?
It's not fun.
Nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. Yeah. The only reason I say that is both of you guys were on the field for that crazy Colts game. Mm-hmm. It was not predicted that day, was it?
No.
No, I mean, I think there was supposed to be snow, but it wasn't obviously like that.
Yeah. So
and it was like
we'll see what happens on Saturday. I hope weather is not a factor. I think this game shapes up to be, it's just a great matchup. The quarterbacks alone are a great matchup. The teams themselves, you got McDermott and Harbaugh have known each other, used to coach together. Mm-hmm. Both of these teams coming off their first playoff wins with these new quarterbacks. And Kansas City, likely waiting. I'm going to say likely, right? Waiting as a 10-point favorite. I think it's a great game. I don't want to see it be altered, as you said, like something like snow that changes the whole game.
There is an earlier comment that I wanted to get to. Luis asking, don't you think they need to bring out Kenny Stills, Devontae Freeman, and Antonio Williams because the Bills need to surprise the Ravens? I don't think that will be the case. And here's why. Because while Kenny Stills has been on the team for 2 weeks. Freeman just got here. Antonio Williams, he's been pulled up from the practice squad. He had a nice showing against the Dolphins in week 17, but you want to ride with the veterans that have been in your systems for the longest time. Now, earlier today, Sean McDermott saying that they are going to have TJ Yeldon be in place of Zach Moss. Now, he hasn't decided whether or not Antonio Williams will be pulled up from the practice squad, but I think you want to ride with the people that know the playbook the best. So that's why I would not expect to see a guy like Freeman or Kenny Stills out there.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on Tuesday. We can add Antonio Freeman to the likes of Brandon Riley, Duke Williams, Christian Wade, and now Antonio Williams as Bills fan favorites that have never actually done anything majorly important.
Duke Williams had that game winner against the Titans.
Right. Okay. And Antonio Williams did have it in a legitimate NFL game against a team that made the playoffs. So it did have plays, but at this point, we're not talking about week 12 of the regular season here. We're talking about win or go home.
You're going with guys that you trust. And it's kind of what we went back to last year, where I wanted them to sign a veteran running back and release TJ Yeldon. I was one of the guys during the offseason saying that, but Mike, you were right. They say like there's something that they like about TJ Yeldon. They like his little veteran leadership. Devin Singletary even talked about that he was the veteran after Frank Gore left and that he was the guy that was showing him the way this season. So like for whatever reason, they weren't going to bail on this plan in the playoffs after they've kept TJ Yeldon on this entire time.
Yeah. And
Devontae Freeman just doesn't have enough experience right now. And you're going with guys that know with the system.
And you know what Devin Singletary's got to do, and I think this is where they'd have a little more faith in Yeldon, is Ravens blitz. And fans forget this a lot of times. I think everybody's guilty of forgetting a lot of times. Big part of a running back's job is blitz pickup and being able to block. And sometimes, look, you're not a left tackle. You're a running back. Sometimes it's getting in the way. It's good leverage. It's doing whatever to give Josh that extra minute to throw the ball or get out of the way. And I think they trust him. We had Deion Dawkins talking about it today, that Singletary has not had the year that a lot of people could have expected. But he said, hey, the team changed. He says, but Devin's doing his job in blitz pickup, a little bit in the passing game. It's not the stats. We're fully aware this is a passing team. But when you pass, you need the running backs to do that. And I think that's where they want to trust a veteran. You have one play like that where a guy misses the blitz pickup. It's, strip sack fumble and you're in trouble.
Yeah, it can definitely be a game-altering type of play. I feel like we've talked so much about Lamar Jackson and how dynamic he has been and explosive, but I feel like we should talk about Josh Allen, especially because Ravens, they do love to blitz. And we've seen Josh Allen this season in particular, I feel like, really step up and make – we know Josh is so good off script, but I feel like this year you've seen him take like just another step forward with that.
Yeah, I think that part is what has made him, as the Bills, some shots of the Bills practicing today. You can see
they're feeling pretty loose.
They're dancing again. There's Josh with Diggs, and I think it says that Gabe Davis with him there. I think that is what has elevated Josh's game, is the fact that, when you're young, guys have some success quickly, and then everybody's like, oh, this guy can do this or this guy can do that. And then, Dan, to your baseball analogies, you hit the fastball and then you don't see a fastball, right?
Yeah.
Josh has adjusted to the zones, to the man-to-man, bring pressure, don't bring pressure. Whatever it is, he's adjusted this year. This team does bring pressure. They're very different than the Colts. What worries me is that the Colts got pressure without bringing anybody.
Yeah.
So, it's a real thing this week. The Ravens' reputation is a defensive team that has won that way before. I think Harbaugh loves that. And they feel that that's who they are right now. They feel like their defense with their guys in the secondary can go out and win this game. And that attitude, I think, can go a long way for them. And I think it's a real thing. But you get burned by the blitz, Josh is going to have some opportunities downfield this week.
AK Cash makes a comment. Does Josh call out protections or Morse or both? I think last year it was a lot more of Morse. I think as Josh has come into his own, and when they've gone more tempo, it's actually allowed Daboll and Josh to kind of identify protections. And that's a big thing. You guys both talk about blitzing. So just some stats. Nobody has blitzed more this season than the Baltimore Ravens. And nobody has more completions, more touchdown passes, a higher QBR against blitzes than Josh Allen. He was great against the blitzes last week against the Colts. He can beat you. And that's the big change. You go back to look at their game last year. And this was an interesting game where the opening drive, Jenna, you were at this game. The opening drive against the Ravens, Josh missed two guys that were wide open for big plays early. He missed John Brown on a go route, and he missed Dawson Knox over the middle. Opening series, and they went 3 and out, and then it was just kind of the offense never got going. Josh went 17 of 39, didn't have a strong game. Like, I don't expect to see that type of Josh again. Like, he has, as he said from the beginning of the season, he has more answers to questions that he is going to face. And blitzes, like Mike said, is one of them. He's gotten much better against them. So this is going to be a game. We can talk all about Lamar. And guess what? Even as Matt Milano says, we want to contain him. That's what they're going to try and do. They just don't want Lamar to run for 150 yards. Like, Lamar can run for 90, throw for a touchdown, and run in a touchdown. And the Bills will say, we contained him. Like, they're
Yeah.
not trying to shut him out. But Josh is also going to have to be more efficient than he was the last year they faced the Ravens, and maybe not get off to that slow start like he did against Indy.
But the development that we've seen from him, he and this Bills offense are a different type of unit than they were last year. So I feel like that's why for a lot of Bills fans, and I'm seeing some people commenting like, the Bills have a more talented roster. They're a better team. I think that's a very fair statement. For sure.
Could have said that last week.
Yeah.
And look what happened. Went right to the end, right to the final second. So that it's a real thing. And like I said, this Ravens team plays with that certain edge, and they got some of that back by winning. And I know some people say, wow, they didn't have a great schedule down the stretch and all. They went through a lot of stuff. They had the COVID thing in the middle of the year, and they came off of that, and they scored some points. And I just think when Lamar's on the field, look, he's, and it's funny, we're going to talk about all the quarterbacks, but when he's on the field, I don't know where you rank him as all the quarterbacks, but he's the most dangerous on any given play because of his ability to run. That one play. Yeah, Josh can throw it down the field.
Right, yeah.
You gotta scheme the guy. Lamar can just go, and we've seen it happen. Last week, the Titans thought they were in a good spot, and Lamar made the play. So we're not talking about, one of the comments was Lamar's only had 3 100-yard games. He is a quarterback. Like 3 100-yard games. He didn't have 100 last week, but he did have 100 last week. Yeah, he won the game for them. So that's what you have to concern yourself with.
A couple of comments also coming in. Jenna, can I get to a couple comments?
Yeah, of course.
One was if Cole Beasley early on, Mitch was asking, you think Cole Beasley's going to be 100%? I don't think so. I think he's just going to have to gut his way through this game. Ahmed asking, will we have McKenzie for this game? I imagine, but I don't know how much of an impact he'll have because Beasley will be there.
Yeah. Why don't we take this time to do the UR Medicine injury report, and this is updated. Go ahead, Jenna. Update it from today.
Yeah, this is from today after practice. Daryl Johnson, the only player that's listed as questionable, but you see Beasley on there, knee. He's been limited this week. Stephon Diggs, he did have a full practice today, as you can tell, but this is a team that we expect for them to be out on the field, Beasley in terms of Diggs. But to Dan's point, Beasley, he gutted it out last week, and gutted it out, I think, is the perfect phrase because some of those plays, I was surprised that he was getting back up. But the injury report is sponsored by UR Medicine Sports Medicine. So I wanted to get that in there as well. But Mike, what do you make of the health status of this team as we enter the divisional round of the playoff?
Yeah, I think they look pretty good. It looks like Trent Murphy's probably going to get the snaps and be activated. That's at least the thought with Daryl Johnson out. No Zach Moss, again, could become a factor, if you need that other running back, and that's why Yeldon is dressing. It'll be interesting to see how Singletary reacts to this. Sean McDermott talked about putting his arm around Singletary and basically like saying to him, like, hey, we need you. He's a talented player. We saw it in flashes last year. Again, we're not talking about the game plan being around Devin Singletary, but for his 4, 5, 6, 8, whatever it is, carries that he has in the game, it's got to come through, got to hold on to the ball. No one takes the ball away better than the Ravens. I mean, that's what they do well. So Singletary's got to be ready for that. So that's important. But in terms of injuries, I think the Bills are in a pretty good spot.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree. But that's something that obviously makes fans, it's something to look out for. And I think a lot of people didn't know whether we would see Cole Beasley last week. Obviously, this week after he did play, he said he was feeling better, which I think is obviously an encouraging sign going forward. But we were talking about the quarterbacks. We mentioned, obviously, of course, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. But we asked in a poll this week who you all think would be Josh's biggest rival for the next 5 years. And Patrick Mahomes winning in a landslide, which is not surprising, but Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Tua or Darnold. I mean, Mahomes has been so good, and we know he's on the other side right now in terms of the Browns as well as the Chiefs facing off on Sunday. But
yeah, well, when I put the poll out there, first of all, as you know, is on a Twitter poll, and they give you 4 options. So Mahomes, they're playing Jackson. They could play Mahomes. They could play Baker, and the other 2 are in the division. I didn't include Cam because I don't think he's going to be back in Foxborough, but he's towards the end. But Tua or Donald, so we're looking at those guys, and then Jenna, we started getting the comments, and it just makes you realize about the AFC.
Yeah, 716 are saying Mahomes because they will be fighting for the number 1 overall seed every year, which that's
it could be
fair,
right?
very fair considering. DeFritz saying none of the above. I think maybe Justin Herbert, especially if Brian Daboll goes to the Chargers, which is another great point, talking about the strength of the AFC and what things will look like down the line. And then Josh Allen stats saying Deshaun Watson after he gets traded to Miami. And that is a terrifying thought, I know, for a lot of Bills fans. Now, something I think that will not get hashed out if it does until the offseason. But that is a scary picture. I saw the Photoshop of Deshaun in a Dolphins jersey, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, and then add Trevor Lawrence coming in. They just officially hired Urban Meyer as their coach. Now, look, may take a little while, but, the AFC is loaded with talented young players, and I think it's great. That's why we don't know what's going to happen with Tua in Miami, and we don't know if Sam Darnold gets the right coach. I think a lot of people believe he's talented. All of a sudden, that's turned around. So then your division can become a landmine. You just don't know. So this is why I say, like, the Bills are in this spot, Dan. Go win, because it's not given. And everybody's predicted, Mahomes in the AFC Championship for the next 10 years. That's not the way the world works, man. He won it. That's great. We don't know about this year. He's got a good chance, but you don't know what the future holds.
Just had to stop because one of the comments, Dan, is this your burner account, Brian? No more 3 runs up the middle, Daboll, please.
Well, I wasn't going to address that. I wasn't going to address that because I didn't like the slander against Brian Daboll. And we all know this is a Brian Daboll Stand podcast. We love his fat face on FaceTimes, all of those good things. But yeah, that was I really think that when you start to get through the mentality and things like that, like the Ravens, you guys talked about leading into the playoffs, playing more free because there wasn't pressure on them.
Right.
I think the Bills did play a little, not timid, but they got away from what I thought they really wanted to do. And I think that getting this playoff win under their belt last week hopefully gets that monkey off their back and to kind of exhale and to get back to playing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I think they were able to compartmentalize all of those big games that they played late in the year. It was just one after another, but it's different. They had fans at home. It was a little bit out of the ordinary for a team that has been so good at keeping things structured and the same. So I hope that this game gets back to a little bit more of what we've seen this season offensively.
Yeah, well, I think the moment you saw that it's different is the Bills over the last half of the year, when they got a 2-touchdown lead, they made it 3 or 4. Right? They just blew people out. Baltimore's been in a lot of tight games. They've been playing for their lives at this point. So the Bills had that 2-touchdown lead against the Colts, and that was the opportunity for the defense to seal things. Stop Indy on that next drive, and they put that game away. But they let them drive down and score, and then they got it back, and they scored again. We know what happened, and it came down to the end. So when you get a chance to bury a team in the playoffs, this is not the regular season. This is not bad teams. Harbaugh talked about it. He's like, part of it is, in the playoffs, everybody's good or really good, and they've been in that mindset the whole time. I personally think it's a benefit to the Bills that they had that tight game and survived it.
Yeah.
Eldon Brooks had a comment saying, do you think that Gabe Davis will have a breakout game? I think he kind of broke out last week. In all honesty, those 2 catches may have been the 2 biggest plays of that game. If they don't go down the field and score that touchdown before half, who knows what's going to happen? Derek asking, is Kenny Stills going to play? I don't think so. I don't think they change anything offensively, barring some injury that we haven't seen. They will go with Cole Beasley at 65% before they go with Kenny Stills, who hasn't played since week 6 and doesn't know the offense. That's just not what they're going to do.
Yeah. And, I was thinking of it as Urban Meyer comes into the NFL. In college, you can dress 450 guys and they take over the sidelines. In the NFL, man, you got your 46. You aren't messing around, so
Alabama was able to dress their center who had torn his ACL the week before, so he could go out there and take the last snap. Could you imagine if the Bills just kept one guy on the field? They only get so many guys on game day. You can't do it, Mike. Great point.
Right. That's what I'm saying is so, and you know what's interesting, who wasn't used last week, and I know he was coming off and nicked up a little bit. I'm curious if Isaiah McKenzie gets some carries this week or the little slip screens or whatever it is, because, that is a play that has been effective for the Bills because it's a little different. It's sort of a running game play because how quickly they get it to him. So.
Well, they said the Colts played a lot of too high safeties. So that was one of the things they said that neutralizes jet sweeps when you're playing that Tampa 2 that the Colts do. So different style there. And like I said, you're going to see an aggressive Baltimore defense. And it's funny. Yeah. Where last week we saw these Josh Allen designed runs that we hadn't seen. And it was like, ooh, Brian Dable went like back into his filing cabinet to be like, oh, like nobody's seen these in a while. The Ravens don't care. They know they're going to blitz. They might as well tell you they're going to blitz. Yeah. They're not going to change going in on Saturday. Yeah. Josh knows it's going to happen. That's who the Ravens are, and you just got to handle it.
Yeah.
There's a good question. Luis saying the X factor will be Davis and Knox. I'm curious. I'm putting you guys on the spot, but who do you think will make the biggest play other than Josh Allen on Saturday? Who is someone that you think will really have an impact in this game?
I mean, it's easy to always say Diggs because he just makes so many plays.
Yeah.
I guess because we've sort of expected Diggs to make plays, and Beasley toughs things out to make those plays. I mean, Gabe Davis, like if you had said this last week, he did make those huge plays. Devin Singletary.
Really?
Maybe even in the pass game too. Wow. When they put pressure, I'm not saying big numbers. I'm saying important plays. Running plays. No, I think maybe Singletary, when I say steps up, he knows he's the guy. Like if you're him, you're like, okay. I mean, he had Frank Gore with him last year. They draft another guy. He's got that the whole year. Well, right now you're the guy. I mean, they definitely are going to depend on him more. TJ Yeldon is not going to get the snaps that Zach Moss did. Or at least I don't anticipate that.
I'll go somebody different. A bunch of people commented about it. John Brown.
Oh, good one. Against his
old big play. We have talked all this show about Cole Beasley. We've even mentioned Gabriel Davis. We've talked about Stephon Diggs. John Brown getting healthy. He had the late touchdown against Miami. Kind of more of a decoy, but I think that maybe John Brown gets one of these 50-yard plays from Josh Allen to kind of spark the offense.
I was shocked at how much he was not a factor against the Colts.
Yeah. Yeah, he really was.
That I was waiting for him to show up, but all right.
Throw a comment here. Clyde says, let Josh cook. Quick passes. Cole Beasley shines. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good comment. I mean, that will help too. Josh is going to get the ball out. I don't think we're going to see the design runs this week. I know a lot of people got anxious about it. I think it's going to be more they play man defense. That middle of the field is going to be open. When Josh gets free and runs, it's going to be more in passing plays. When he takes off, just slide.
Yeah.
The Ravens are physical.
Yeah.
Slide. That's what I would say.
I know Bills fans were collectively holding their breath.
And a lot of comments again. Surprised that why, are we going to see Antonio Williams? He's better than TJ Yeldon, all these things. Sean McDermott already came out today and said that TJ Yeldon will fill in the space for Zach Moss. So TJ Yeldon will be active. He said he wasn't sure about Antonio Williams, whether he'd play or not, whether he'd be activated. If Antonio Williams has to make a play in this game, the Bills are going to lose. If Antonio Williams sees the field, like that is a last resort. He played against Miami in a game that didn't matter. Yeah. The Dolphins had already quit. I get it. He had a couple good runs. It was cool. This is to go to the AFC Championship game. He's gotten 6 snaps in his NFL career.
Well,
you're not going to go with me.
It's funny. I asked Beasley last week about Gabe Davis as a rookie, and he gives you the answer, which is true. He ain't a rookie anymore, but that's because he's been playing all year.
Yes.
And this kid, it's unfair. Now, again, if they were stuck, if they needed him, and you got to play special teams. We already referenced, blitz pickup and all those things. Everybody is saying that because they saw the really good runs, and that's true. But we're talking about playoff game against the Baltimore Ravens, who stripped the ball better than everybody. I don't think they want to risk that. Yes, TJ Yeldon's had those issues. He's also had how many carries in his career? as opposed to this.
Played in national championship games. Like
Yeah.
I go back to big games. Also, guys,
They're
Duke
not a running
Williams
team.
Yeah. Also, it's not a matter of that. Like, I look back at when everybody was almost excited that Duke Williams got to play in Houston. Guess what? He had 3 big drops.
Yeah.
These are big games. This isn't a Week 16 game against Pittsburgh. This is to go to the AFC Championship game. You're not going to put that on against an undrafted free agent rookie.
And by the way, if Duke is watching, that was Dan Fetes who said that.
That was not Mike or Jenna. Where did Dan go?
Duke is a tough dude.
I was saying,
a good
I would
guy.
never say that to
tough
Duke's
dude.
face.
Duke's the best.
Contact. That's what he likes.
Okay, let's get into our picks because I know a lot of people have been asking us. And also, well, you have a message. Mike,
from our sponsor, Greg Connors, who loved being at the game, was so impressed by Bills Mafia. Sponsor of our show, big Bills sponsor. So I asked him, what do you expect this week?
I look at it 2 ways, Mike. I think that the Bills, it's either going to be 14-13 because the defenses are going to slug each other out, or I think it's going to be 35-34 on the win there. So it's which way is the game going to? What's the flow of the game going to be? Are they going to open it up? Is the blitz going to come and they're going to be able to shoot the ball down the field and exploit, some of that speed and the depth they have at receiver? Or is it just going to be an absolute nose-to-nose, toe-to-toe slugfest?
By the way, in case you wanted to know, Greg's pick was 34-33 Bills in the game. So he's going more with the back and forth, everybody scoring points type of game. So both these teams have been scoring a ton.
Yeah. I mean, I have it being a higher scoring game.
All right, well, let's start with you, Jenna.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
I'm 1-0 in the postseason, even though we all are. I have the Bills winning this game 31-30. I think it's going to be an incredibly close game. I think it is going to be a back and forth type of game, but I think that we've seen both these teams' offenses put up a lot of points. And I think that the Bills' defense, like they were last week, will be able to make some clutch stops. And I think Josh Allen is the better quarterback, and I like to choose the better quarterback to win. So I have the Bills winning this one, advancing on to the AFC title game. I also said that the Bills won the AFC title way too many times, a couple weeks ago, because I'm
maybe you were right
AFC
early.
East. So I'm speaking it all into existence, and you'll have to be back with us next week.
Well, one of the comments, Justin Pletnikoff, just beat me to it. I got the Bills in a close one as well. I think these teams, I don't love the matchup for the Bills. And at this point of the season, Mike, you've talked about it. It is all about matchups. I think the Bills can contain Lamar the best they can. I think they can keep this game close early on, but I think the Ravens really will control most of the game. I think Josh will be more freed up. 27-24, Bills win. Tyler Bass field goal at the buzzer. It's the win.
Okay, Tyler Bass hit a big field goal last week, no doubt about it. That was huge for them. I'm going with the Bills again. I didn't have my own number on there. I had my pick in there. I don't know how that ended up coming out. I will tell you this. Let's fix this right here so we have it officially.
Extra anticipation.
I know.
Drum roll.
I mean, since I am 16-1,
you are. I mean, that I hate. Ooh.
I'm going high scoring too.
Okay.
Both these teams have scored a ton of points. I did not like what I saw of the Bills defense last week, and I think they're going to have a tough time with the Ravens. I think Josh Allen and Lamar is going to be a great show. And that poll that we had, my guess is there's going to be a point where people are going to be seeing this as a Josh Lamar rivalry too. Maybe with Mahomes becomes the big one. Maybe it's with somebody else. But I'm impressed by Lamar Jackson for a guy who is not built and skill set that people want to make him in the Mahomes, Allen, Deshaun category. He's a unique guy, but he can be very effective. And he's tough, and he can win. And he's won now in the playoffs. So I think it's a back-and-forth game, and I think the Bills win it 34-30.
This game
we
is
all have the over.
Yes.
Vegas has the over at 50. The Bills are 2.5-point favorites. So Mike and I have them covering. Jenna has the Ravens covering.
Okay. This game is going to be bad for people's heart health. Like,
well, look at last week.
But
this is where I'm saying is when you got a 14-point lead in the second half, it's the playoffs. Now, like we've seen this happen, but you got to try to put a team away, and the defense has to come up. And that's my concern is I did not see that out of the Bills defense. They lost the line of scrimmage both ways. And I know the Colts have a great offensive line. Baltimore's a physical team that likes to run it, and they maybe not with their D-line, but with their front seven, they can get to the quarterback. That's my concern for the Bills. But I think Josh will burn them a few times. I think Diggs is going to have another Diggs game, and I think there's going to be a lot of points scored.
Ooh, exciting stuff. We're going to have a pregame, not let's talk football, but a pregame discussion as well for everyone out there. If you want even more Bills stuff as we get ready. Kickoff is at 8:15 on Saturday. We'll have plenty more stuff on buffaloplus.com as well as on our YouTube page. Anything else you guys want to touch on for tonight?
Matt Milano didn't give the Ravens any motivation. I'm scrolling through my Twitter again, and it's like, hey, Lamar, they're talking blank about you. And it's like, no, they're not. The Bills have oohed and awed about him. My other tweet I had earlier this week about Josh Allen saying he's a great guy, all the Ravens fans are like, if we lose, I'm going to be rooting for Josh Allen and these Bills. They're so nice. And all Matt Milano says is, we think we're pretty confident we can contain him. And everybody's like, they're being disrespectful.
Yeah, well,
it's Twitter, Dan. It's Twitter. No one
it's
thinks
Twitter.
We don't think things through. We just read and react. Barely read and react.
Read and react. What? Leslie Frazier talk to you? Come on.
There it is. Justin, let's not hope that tweet doesn't come back to bite us, Dan.
Gap integrity.
Like it's my tweet.
First of all, not only did Dan tweet it, he tweeted exactly what Milano said, which if anybody watches it, they go, oh, okay. But again, if you want it to be something, then it's something. Yeah.
Dan's just trying to get clout.
He is.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what Kelvin Benjamin told me. So I figured I would pass
you want to clout.
Oh, okay. This was fun. All right. Be sure to join us on Saturday and check us out on buffaloplus.com and of course on the YouTube page, Buffalo Plus. For Mike Catalana and Dan Fetes, I am Jenna Cottrell. We will see you as the Bills prepare for the divisional round of the playoffs, hosting the Ravens on Saturday night.